Good morning and welcome to the Buffalo Social Club. I'm Mary Friona and we are coming to you from our beautiful studio at Hilbert College, and we have an amazing show planned for you today with some really special guests. It's been a great weekend and it's extending into today. Good morning, Kimberly.
Good morning, Mary. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Did you have a good week?
I had a great week. I had a great weekend. Busy. Saw you a lot.
We did. We were at a lot of charitable events in the community. Lots of good things happening in Western New York.
So many good things happening. Friday, we had Liam's Legacy event, and the crowd.
The crowd at the Wurlitzer in North Tonawanda. It was beautiful.
And it was the first annual, so sometimes the first one is hard to really get a lot of people to come to, but that was so wonderful in memory of Liam Lynch. Just a brave, amazing little boy. And his parents did a great job. That was really wonderful.
And then we had Luxury Purse Bingo on Sunday, and that was also full house at Samuel's Grand Manor for Sophia the Fierce.
Full house, yeah. And that was the fourth?
Yeah, fourth annual.
And it was a full house. I mean, there were a lot of people. I brought my daughter, Emma. She sat next to you. And she won a pair of Versace sunglasses. She could not wait to get home and tell everybody about it.
She sure did. Pink, too, my favorite color.
Pink, you got it.
Yeah, I had a great week too. I emceed my first gala for the Breast Cancer Network of Western New York, and I was a little nervous because I've never emceed anything before, although I do a lot of public speaking and television appearances. That was my first time like having a script and doing all that, but I did great, and I had this big, flowy, beautiful dress, and I didn't trip or anything, so it was beautiful and an amazing event.
That dress was absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Absolutely stunning. And then Saturday was a little bit of fun time too. My husband actually is a musician, and he had a show, and my daughter, who is 14, opened for him, which is amazing because it was a sold-out crowd, standing room only. She sang 4 songs, and then she did a song with him. So Hotel California. So it was so much fun to watch.
Oh, I bet that meant a lot to Scott to have his baby by his side.
It did.
She's so talented.
She really is. And you had a great night Saturday.
I did. I went to Roscoe Flats, and it was an amazing time. They're such great performers, and the energy was great at the concert. I went with my husband and my son, and just a beautiful event. And our amazing guests that we have today have something to talk about Roscoe Flats concert today too, upcoming.
They do, and we have some great things coming up. We're going to talk about tipping.
Yep.
Which is a tough subject to talk about because people feel one way or the other, but we're going to give our opinions, sort of, on that.
Yep.
But let's get to our guests.
Yes, we should. We are so excited to have Chuck Collard from Courageofcarly today, and Megan Crawford, and you are the Pediatric and Young Adult Program Manager at Roswell Park.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. We're so glad you're here with us. Chuck, we go way back.
We do.
We go way back. When I worked at Channel 2, actually, I interviewed Chuck, gosh, it must have been 20-some years ago.
It was definitely over 20 years ago.
And you've been working hard ever since.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really kind of humbling when you look back at Carly's legacy and being diagnosed in '99 and then deciding to create this organization, her idea, and then just have the Buffalo community rally behind it. But you obviously, when that interview when we were talking, helped kind of kick it off, and to think back over the last 25 years and the families that she's helped, following her passing, and just the legacy. And you talk about Sophia and you talk about Liam, and these are families that we've met at various events. And one thing, a parent should never have to bury a child, and unfortunately, we know many families in this area have experienced that, and that's the reason we do the work that we do through Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Institute, is to make sure that patients and families have options moving forward.
Carly's story is so tragic, from her parents to herself. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and you think about, like, how can something be so unfair? But we see it all too often.
Yeah, and I think back, Carly's parents were my wife's aunt and uncle. Carly's biological mom, Judy, and my wife, Carol Ann, were only 6 years apart, so growing up, they were more like sisters, and you never think it's going to happen, but her dad passed away in '93, 4 days after he was diagnosed, an aggressive form of lung cancer, and then we kind of helped Carly, raise Carly, when Judy would travel a lot, and then 3 years after that, Judy called us and said she'd been diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. She'd been given 3 to 6 months to live, and asked at that point if we would take care of Carly. And we lived a couple miles apart. We drove over. We picked up Carly that morning. She lived with us and moved in with us. And unfortunately, Judy passed away. And shortly after Judy passed away, we adopted her. And the irony is that, about less than a year after Judy had passed away, she started complaining of headaches. And, it's one of those things you don't expect to happen in one family, but it's a reminder that life's not always fair and it doesn't always turn out the way you think it's supposed to. And it's really the power of our response and Carly's response. And she could have said, poor me, but she didn't. She said, hey, I want to do something to help other kids. And at the time I said, what would you call it? She said, Carly's Club. And we obviously changed the name, a little less than 10 years ago to kind of signify the need to raise funds. Because I think the differentiator you're going to find is that, our focus is on the research and development. When Carly was diagnosed back in '99, the survival rates for her type of cancer, medulloblastoma, was probably in the low 60s after the first diagnosis, and then it dropped significantly, and she relapsed, several times. Now those survival rates are higher thanks to the work up at Roswell and University of Buffalo.
Yeah, the work you do is just, life-changing, game-changing, life-changing. And you see this all firsthand working with the kids, and you watch them go ring the bells. And I don't know how you emotionally do it all.
Yeah, my kids at work are my inspiration. Their resilience is what drives not only myself, our scientists, our doctors, our nurses forward. Everyone that walks through the door has a different story. And so our goal is to just help them navigate it. And we just lead by their example. And so, some days are tougher than others. And some days, the highs are so high and the lows are unimaginably low, and we just try to support those families wherever they fall in that spectrum. And so, it's the kids that lead the way. And, I'm blessed to be around such amazing families that allow us to be a part of their journey. And it's truly a privilege that they welcome us in during some of the most difficult days of their lives. And I'm blessed to be around some of the smartest minds in cancer care and cancer research. So I just, am there to help support the team that's really leading the way and help support our families.
And we need more research, childhood cancer awareness. There's a lot of awareness, but there's more funding and research needed for that. And you guys are doing that in memory of Carly this month.
Yeah, so in general, our doctors at Roswell Park are working on different pediatric research projects. So we constantly have clinical trials available for our patients. We're working on protocols to find less toxic treatments. Most of our cancers that these kids have, their treatment protocols are decades old. And so even in my time, you think I want to support cancer research. Well, that's really overwhelming. But our leukemia patients are now getting immunotherapy, which is something when I started 7 years ago didn't exist. And so with that, it's creating less toxic treatments, the side effects are lessened, and then too, they're at less of a risk for secondary cancer. So, that's the kind of change that we want to keep driving. And so we're continuing Carly's legacy. This would have been her 35th birthday. And so we're asking our community in honor of that to support it. And so it all started with Carly, and we want to keep driving that forward for her and for all the kids that walk through our doors.
It's funny because, you just see her face as a child, and to think she would be 35 is absolutely, it blows your mind.
It's humbling, and she'd still be smiling. I always challenge people to find a picture of Carly when she wasn't smiling. She was always smiling, even in, when she was in hospital. And you mentioned the importance of treatment. In the 300 plus days that Carly was in the hospital, probably 90% of them had nothing to do with her cancer. It had to do with the after effects of the chemotherapy and some of the radiation, where liver was shutting down and lungs shutting down. So, just to see over the last couple of decades the advancement, and as Megan suggested, less toxic forms of treatment, that's the most important thing in the world. And the number of families that are coming out that have a favorable outcome and story now that are going out and advocating. And that's the reason we're so grateful to be able to participate in your show this morning.
Mm-hmm. We're glad you're here.
So glad.
We're glad you're here.
Mm-hmm. And isn't there a new treatment that one of your doctors is doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but CAR T-cell?
Yeah, so CAR T-cell is the new frontier for a lot of different cancers. And so Currently, we are seeing some of our leukemia patients utilize that. And so not every patient qualifies, but it has proven to be quite successful. We actually had one of the youngest known cancer patients in the United States go through CAR T-cell therapy. And so now that was towards the beginning of my career. I think she's almost 7. So it's amazing to see, if that was 10, 15 years ago, she wouldn't have had that option. Wow. And so now she's thriving in elementary school. And it's just, again, amazing to see this progress. And so now our own doctors at Roswell Park are seeing how we could possibly apply it to other cancers that we see in kids, like solid tumors, where there's not as many treatment options. And so it's just, again, incredible that this is happening in our backyard. Some of these physician scientists that I work with, they're not only, working towards CAR T-cell therapy, they're working towards graft versus host disease. They're working for all of these different therapies. And it's just, maybe your neighbor, you don't even know who they are. So many of our scientists are so humble and so under the radar, and they're out here doing things that are being globally recognized. And so I'm just, again, honored to work alongside those scientists.
And I think that's one of my favorite things about your organization is you do all the family things and the kid thing, but you make sure that the funding for research is part of in your fundraising.
It's critical. And you don't realize how critical it is until you hear the words your child has cancer. I'm telling you, and I think back to, when we walked through the doors in 99 and just kind of the limited options that we had. And so to be able to advance that and, go to Albany or DC and actually advocate for the pediatric families is so important. And we've got some great elected officials in this area that have supported it as well. So, that's the key. How do you improve the research and development? Because that improves the treatment, that improves the long range outcomes. Because, 20, 25 years ago, you're getting something, and then all of a sudden you recognize that in a couple of years, you may get a secondary cancer as a result of it. So the more that we can personalize that treatment, and that's what's happening at Roswell. Roswell's an unbelievable organization. It really is. And, back when she was diagnosed, there were a couple of treatments that weren't offered there. So we actually had a stem cell transplant at another hospital, and then she ended up going through an experimental drug trial because the stem cell transplant wasn't successful, and we lived in Boston, Massachusetts for a little over 4 months, back in 2001. Now everything's offered here in Roswell. So not only are we keeping families here in Western New York, but it's almost in a situation where it can become a destination center for people who are traveling from outside of the area here to get everything they need under one, organization.
How do we change the 4%? Because when people hear 4%, especially when, so many organizations use the beautiful child's face, but then they collect all that money and then only 4% actually goes to research for childhood cancer. Like, how do we change that and make that more?
Yeah, so federal funding, only about 4 to 8% on average goes to childhood cancer. So out of all of the cancers, pediatric only sees that small single percentage. And so among pediatric, you have to remember there's dozens of types of cancer all fighting for that funding. And so that's where it really comes out to community support. And so even, I like to use COVID as an example, just in the sense of you saw how a lot of protocols had to go through adults and then it can reach children. Well, a lot of that happens with childhood cancer. These protocols in many cases have to go through adult patients. Sometimes there's not enough enrolled in a trial, so it won't make it to pediatrics, or sometimes that funding stops after it goes through adults. And so, that's where we all need to step up as a community. I mean, we think about all of these other activities that we want to support for children. Well, unless our children are healthy, none of that matters, right? And so we really have to place that emphasis on our kids now, so that they can live long, healthy lives, so they don't have to worry about a secondary cancer. And so I think a lot of it's just education. A lot of people don't understand that it's such a small percentage of federal funds that go to pediatric cancer. I think a lot of people don't understand that it's not as rare as you think. In my time, I had a couple classmates growing up in high school that were diagnosed, but now, I'm involved in this world, and you just see how many kids in Western New York are impacted. And so it's that awareness and then putting that action to power. So supporting these different research trials at Roswell Park, and our grant team is unbelievable. So for every dollar raised, I know it's varied in the past couple of years, but we typically see around $23 of external grants being collected. So through that seed funding that we're raising through Courage of Carly, through Ride for Roswell, then we have this evidence that we apply for external grants. And so your $1 can actually make a huge difference. And so, platforms like this where we can speak about that, that's how we make that change.
Call elected leaders. Does that help?
That absolutely helps, yeah. Actually, our government affairs team just recently took a bunch of pediatric families to go lobby in Washington, D.C. And so they were trying to fight for the Give Kids a Chance Act. And so that did pass. And so now it eliminates a lot of barriers to getting those clinical trials to children and to getting things passed by the FDA. So again, we're, a small voice, sometimes it's not even money. It's just speaking about these issues that makes a big impact.
All right. We're going to make a post about that and put it on our page of how people can help and maybe, call your elected leaders, make a difference. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. We're going to do it. Right?
We sure are, yeah. And speaking of supporting amazing local charities like Courage of Carly and Roswell Park, we have our next segment, which is a little bit louder now, sponsored by Salino Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, where we talk about amazing charities in Western New York. And today we're going to talk about Western New York Heroes.
Yes, Western New York Heroes. What a great organization. I mean, the work they do and the things they do for veterans is just absolutely wonderful.
I mean, everyone should be supporting our veterans, and I love that it's a local organization doing amazing work. And I am just, I visited them the other day, and it was really something else to hear from the founder, Chris Krieger, and what they do.
Yeah, are you guys familiar with Western New York Heroes?
A little bit, but tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, and you went to their beautiful gala this year, right?
Oh, I sure did. That was magical at the casino in Niagara Falls. It was really something to see. But they have their Positive for Heroes program, which is my favorite program, where they match service dogs to veterans. So they will get a service dog, and they will train that service dog, and then they will pair that dog with a veteran who needs them most. So the veteran might have PTSD or the different things that go with being a veteran, and that dog is going to help save their life, as Chris says. A lot of these dogs save their lives. So he met with me to tell me all about it. And then they also partner with Niagara County. So the service dogs are now in the jails. And the service dogs are getting the help they need, being trained by the inmates. So the dogs are now helping the inmates are helping the dog, then they will help the veterans.
Did you see they just posted pictures where they took the big dog, they had to take the big dogs on the airplane. Did you see that?
No.
I don't know what airline it was, but they had asked the airline, we're bringing these big dogs, these big, trained dogs. And so we need a little bit of extra leg room, and the airline, I forget which one it is, said, oh, no problem. Then they showed pictures of it today, and the dogs are like this, and the dogs are can't even move. It's so funny. I mean, not funny. It's terrible. It probably wasn't very comfortable, but when you got to bring the dogs.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how I would fit Chloe yet, but I'm going to do it one day. Chloe hasn't been on a plane yet. Yeah, my service dog. I have a service dog to help me, and yeah, she hasn't been on a plane with me yet. She's been on a plane, but not with me. So. But she's not that big, so she should be okay.
Oh, she's not that big. Are you going to bring her on your next vacation?
I want to, yeah. It'd be fun. No.
Awesome. Well, that's fun, right?
Yeah. So I love the good work the heroes are doing, and like I said, I thought it was really cool to learn about, the inmates, getting a positive response from training these dogs, and then they also said, like, obviously the employees of the jails too, they are in better moods and stuff because the dogs are around. So the dogs are offering therapy to them. So Western Heroes are going to provide some therapy dogs, not service dogs, to the employees at the jails too, to help them get through their jobs, because it's a hard one.
Yeah, you guys must see that a lot in the hospital, right? The dogs help the kids and cheer them up and really give them that little bit of joy that they need, a little bit of maybe a pep in their step.
We love our therapy dogs.
And actually, they're so calming. I mean, just to be able to kind of hang out. So what an unbelievable mission.
And yeah, your therapy dogs are amazing there. I'm so grateful to Roswell Park for allowing me to have my service dog with me through my treatment. I would not have been able to get through my treatment without my dog. she just made everything so much better, and the employees were so good to help me and figure things out. Even when I got radiation, the dog can't be there when I get radiation, but the employees kept her with them while I got my radiation. So that was just so helpful. Everyone at Roswell was really good to Chloe.
Yeah, she would call and she would say, "Oh, the staff did this and that and this and that, and everybody wants to pet her." And it's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want people to ask to pet?
I do. I think it's, respectful. There are times where, I might have an easier appointment maybe at Roswell, or I'm out and it's an easier day, but like some days, like I really, really need her, and I can't have her distracted, because in that moment I'm really stressed and really sad or whatever, and I really need her to focus on being with me. So like if I'm stopping and people want to pet her, it's a lot. So and in general, when you see a service dog, you should always ask to pet them.
Yeah,
right. They're doing a job, and most of the times you can't pet them, so.
And we were at an event Sunday for the bingo, Luxury Purse Bingo, and she brought Chloe. And of course, everybody at the table is wanting to sneak her a little bit, something under the table. She's so loved.
Yes, but in the line of work that I do and being with children and families, it's like, Chloe's a little bit different. So she brings smiles to the children. We're, helping and stuff.
Well, one great thing about this show, we think it's a great thing about the show, is we really talk about very deep, very serious things, and have conversations about changes we can all make together. But we also talk about some things that are just everyday water cooler talk, and one of those things is tipping. Now, we started this conversation via text or a phone call, right? Was it?
Yeah, you texted me. You saw in a Facebook group that a gentleman was very upset at a local business and server. He said he wasn't provided quality service, and he just refused to tip, and he thought that was a great thing, that he was, standing up for justice, that he didn't tip.
Right, and he posted that on Facebook. Now, I don't know why people, and he named actually the restaurant and the server, which I totally disagree with that. But his point was, are we expected to tip, or should we tip based on good service? So I know everybody has feelings about this, but what do you think?
Well, my sister was a server for 40-something years, so we always tip. And honestly, if the service isn't great, I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And perhaps the gratuity might be something that helps them get to that next level. And, so at the end of the day, I probably always tip. I think where I struggle a little bit is when you're going in and you're doing takeout, and then they flip the monitor around. That always makes me pause a little bit, just kind of depending on it. But I think it's a great opportunity. I recognize that that servers, that's part of their income. So I think it's something that we need to do. And I think it's also important that when we don't get the great service, that we kind of let them know. Hey, I just would like to bring this to your attention. But at the end of the day, I would still give an appropriate gratuity. Now, if the service is exceptional, then obviously they're going to get a little bit more, sometimes a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with that too. Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
When you go out to eat, you know that you're going out to eat and you're going to be served, and that you're supposed to tip. So I feel like not leaving anything is just not right, because you're going out to eat and being served. But like he said, like turning around the thing when you go to Subway, it's like, come on, guys, I'm at Subway. I'm getting, my food to go really fast and out of here. I can't tip you 20% for my subs.
Right. Well, and the difference is, like you said, that's part of their income. So they're getting paid less per hour for the most part, whereas, Starbucks or Subway, they're getting, full pay, even if it's minimum wage, it's whatever, $16.50 now, I think, where I think it's $10 for servers. I don't really know off the top of my head, but I believe. Do you know that? $10, $10.25.
I should know.
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
it's around there. But
Yeah.
I mean, even like Chuck was saying, and before we even got on the air, we said, working in this field, and you guys help so many people, you gain a lot of perspective on life. And so I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. They might just be having a bad day. Some of them might be out of their control. It might be on the kitchen. Yeah. Hopefully they communicate that. But no, I have always worked in the food and beverage industry, so I'm a big tipper, especially when people go above and beyond. But the takeout part, or the, I did most of the work, a self-checkout kind of thing where it asks to tip. I'm like, I'm the one that did the work here.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
So I'm very much so in support of our frontline workers that are, serving us. And, you never know, being someone who has worked in that industry, you never know what's going on in someone's lives and why they're coming through your doors that night. They might be celebrating a birthday. They might be celebrating something that didn't really happen that was great that day, and they want to change their day around. So, I try to empower myself to make their day better. And I think everyone should do that regardless if you are the customer or if you're the server. So do what you can with whatever you can. Maybe it's your words or maybe it's your money.
Exactly. And I feel like it's one of those jobs, when you're working with the public, it's one of those things where you just have to put a smile on your face and do that. I was a server, and I would go having bad days. Sometimes, I was young, so I would go hungover. It was an early morning shift.
You could do it then, though.
I could do it then.
Yeah.
But, you get like 2-3 hours sleep, and you went out with all the girls that are all serving that morning. So it could either be a mess or it could just be a riot. And, you do rely on that money. And I happen to be married to, I swear, he is insane at tipping, to the point where I'm like, honey, that's a little much. But he
wants to.
He wants to. And it's usually, sometimes he does it at the beginning a little bit. And so, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
You think about how that's changing somebody's life. And I think when we go into a restaurant, we have a responsibility, too, to lift up people.
Exactly.
Maybe we don't know sometimes we'll sit there and chat for a while, and all of a sudden we don't look at the menus, and somebody walks over and they're like, "You ready to order?" And we haven't even looked at the menus, and then what we're trying to order. I think we have to have we have a responsibility, too, to make sure we're creating the best, experience and bringing that energy and that appreciation, to that interaction.
I was working at a news station, and they paid you like $10.50 an hour when I started, which is pretty normal to start out in the news business, right? But I can't live off $10.50 an hour. I live in my own apartment, so I got a job, and I said I could bartend, and I could not bartend at all. But I didn't say that. So then I did it, and I have a great personality with people, but just couldn't bartend. I couldn't even open up the wine bottles, the corks. I couldn't open it up. So I would just hand it to the customers, and the customers were so nice to me. And I think they were even more happy to open the bottle for me, because then they'd pour it themselves. So they'd pour themselves a big old glass. I got let go a couple weeks later, but my point is,
they went out of business.
My point is that the customers were so nice to me and understood that this was a young woman just doing her best, and even if she can't open up the wine bottle, we're still going to leave her a tip.
Yeah, I loved bartending.
Oh, you were probably much better than I was.
I only bartended one time, and it was actually when I was working at Channel 2. And once they found out, they're like, "You're not allowed to do that."
Really?
Oh yeah, because I was on air, and they're like, "No, we can't have."
Can you serve? You just can't bartend?
I have no idea, but I think it was a couple of months before they found out. But the good thing for the restaurant was, everybody from work would come there, all the on-air people. So then it was then more people would come and more people would come just to see the people that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a riot. But so they were very disappointed when I had to, it was a place on Hurdle. And I remember my general manager called me into his office, and he's like, "So I heard you were bartending." And I was like, "Yeah, I really like it. I when my girls go with their dad, it really helps me, pay bills and stuff." And he's like, "Yeah, you can't do it anymore."
Oh.
And I said, "Okay, well, so you're gonna supplement that income?"
Yeah, right.
And actually, it worked.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it worked. Yep.
Well, you're worth it. So.
Well, I got to tell wonderful stories.
I'm sure you did.
Like Chuck's over there.
I think about, what about the training? Did you have a training program on how to open the wine bottle? They just threw you right in, right?
I told them I knew how to bartend, so it's my fault.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I did
Gotcha.
not, no.
So you didn't tell them everything they needed to know?
No, I didn't.
You
And
don't
I
regret
remember
it.
just being like, "But it's Christmas. How am I supposed to buy Christmas presents?" Oh, I didn't care. Yeah. Okay.
Jeez. Probably because you let them pour it. If you would have just poured it and it would have been just the right amount.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Tried my best.
I don't know either. What if we were talking a little bit about what we were watching, Paradise, but you guys didn't see that. Paradise is a crazy show.
It is a crazy, crazy good show, and I feel like it's relatable to anyone who watches it. It's about the world.
It's about the world ending.
It's about the world ending. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what would happen if it ended, and what would people do, and what would the people in power do? And
Not good things.
Not good things.
Not
no,
good things.
No.
Yeah, power can corrupt people, especially in the movies. Especially in the movies. So anything good you're watching?
Oh, geez. I finished Severance. I'm caught up on that. That's on
see that.
Apple TV.
Okay.
I highly recommend. It's kind of about splitting your outside life and your work life. And so, sometimes in the field that I'm in, I do that a little bit, the compartmentalization, and interesting to see how your work-life balance is. And yeah, that's a really interesting one. It's more sci-fi, which is something I typically don't do, and then Say Nothing on Hulu I watch too.
Oh, I didn't hear of that either.
That one came out a bit ago. I just finished it in honor of St. Patrick's Day coming out. It's about Northern Ireland and the Troubles and everything. So quite educational and quite dramatic. But other than that, I'm a Bravo girl. So that's usually where I fall in line. But
You watching anything good, Chuck?
So I'm not a binge watcher, but I did binge watch Reacher. I did that when that came out each season. I recently watched Hijack, and then my wife was watching the JFK.
Love story?
Yeah.
I love that.
And honestly, I got kind of pulled into it. I was just like, oh, I'm not going to do it. And then next thing I know, I was leaning against the couch, and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll just sit down and watch an episode. And then it gets to the point where it ends, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll just watch one more. And then before you know it, 4 hours has passed on the weekend.
That means it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you got to wait a week now.
Yeah.
We're spoiled with the whole streaming
It's up,
thing.
it's down, it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah. So I love that. I was obsessed with John Kennedy Jr. when he was alive.
Yep.
And I was sure I was going to marry him. But it didn't work out.
I'm sorry to hear that. But your husband's just as wonderful.
He's more wonderful.
And a good tipper.
And a good tipper.
See? Probably better than John Jr. But yeah, that is a good show. And her style, her fashion, it's like so good. So good. All righty. Well, we're going to move on because we talk about what matters in Western New York, sponsored by the Law Offices of William Mattar. And one of the things that matter, of course, are the amazing ways to raise money and to sort of make a difference. And here in Western New York, I mean, we are definitely one of the most giving, caring communities in the whole country, without a doubt. Remember they did like the mail carrier thing where they, you put the food out, you put the cans out. Do you remember that? And the mail carriers would come and grab them, and we always got more in our community than anywhere else. Those poor mail carriers are carrying out. But tell us a little bit about, Megan, we'll start with you, some of the ways that people can help with Roswell, with courageofcarly, and some of the wonderful events and missions that you guys do there.
Well, there are limitless possibilities. So in general, as we were saying, for Carly's birthday, we ask the community to consider donating $35 in her honor so that we can continue her legacy. But year-round, we are always in need of help. We're in need of funds for research. We do a lot of patient support programs. So every patient that walks through our clinic, they have access to a medical psychologist, a child life specialist, snacks, coffee, anything that you can think of that can make the patient experience better, we support. So we're constantly looking for people to help us fill our snack cabinet. We're looking for all sorts of donations. And then if you don't have the monetary means to help that way, we are constantly looking for blood donors. So we have our own donor center right inside Roswell Park. And so whether it's for a pediatric patient or adult, our kids, our adults are constantly in need of more blood, especially our blood disorder patients. A lot of people don't know that we treat different blood disorders at Roswell Park, whether it's sickle cell, thalassemia, and those kids need blood too. So, whether, again, it's monetary, it's rallying your team, your group, your Girl Scouts, whatever it might be, your business. We have the architect and design community. They're doing a huge, huge snack cabinet drive for us that they do every single year. Actually, now they moved it to twice a year. So that will help cover our snacks for months so that when our kids are in clinic, if their appetite is changing, we have that available for them. And a lot of these families also face food insecurity. So we want to make sure that while they're in our clinic that they're being taken care of. So yeah, lots of ways to help.
I know there's a lot of challenging things that you see, but can you tell us like maybe one of the most rewarding things that you have seen or been witness to?
Yeah, so I've now been here for over 7 years, which is kind of crazy. It went by like that. But it's seeing these kids grow and thrive. So especially after their, first follow-up, after they complete a treatment and they no longer have all this toxic medicine going into their body, they just grow. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so I might see someone, in fact, I saw one of my little buddies the other day, and my jaw was dropped the entire time, how tall they had gotten since I last saw them, and to hear about how school's going now that they're back in school full time. And so it's seeing them progress throughout life and reach these different milestones that, in the time of diagnosis, their parents felt like was so far away, or maybe they wouldn't even reach it. And so it's really incredible to see them grow. I mean, I've seen kids that now have like gone from high school to graduated college and are PAs and nurse practitioners because of what they've been through. And then, I even recently, we had our 25th anniversary, and I saw one of my patients who now has a family and a kid. And it's just like absolutely incredible to see that, especially in those cases, because fertility is an issue from these treatments. So to see them living their best lives, and it's just absolutely incredible.
It is. And I like at Roswell too, I've found when I was battling, you guys really cared about my son too. So he's not battling when I'm battling, but he's battling, witnessing his mother and going through that. And so there was a wonderful woman that would come in, and if little Carla was with me during treatments, she would come in and she would check on him and see how he's doing and offer if he wanted to go for a walk or play a board game. And it was really, really nice to have, just the family cared about as well. I know you guys work really hard to make sure that everyone in the family is cared about, because everyone is going through that.
Right, I know you mentioned that before we came on air, but the siblings, what they go through too. I mean, sometimes they don't get the attention that they deserve to.
Yeah, they're being raised by grandparents and neighbors and can't come on the hospital because their sister was immunosuppressed, and and they're forever changed. I mean, that's the thing. When you go through that, you move into a stage of survival or a survivorship. But think about those cognitive years. Like when we were in Boston. My youngest son Josh spent 6 out of the first 8 months out of his life living out of Ronald McDonald houses. Those are like formative years of development. And then my oldest son actually went to first grade in Boston. So another reason why we want to keep families here in this area. And as Megan was sharing earlier, it's some of these stories, and there's not enough time to tell a lot of them, but it's remarkable. People think that when you're diagnosed with cancer, it's the worst thing that ever happens. And it is. But you know what it does? It changes the trajectory of your life and your career path. And I can think of so many families that went through it, and that first diagnosis and meeting them for the first time, whether at a Bills game or Sabres game, and just to see all that kind of that hopelessness. And then next thing you know, they get through it and they build a level of resilience that they wouldn't have been able to build if it wasn't for that situation. And then they in turn go out and go into a career path that helps others. I think of one gentleman, a young man, he actually, one of our first fundraisers was a lemonade stand on a cul-de-sac. It was the worst business model ever, but he was 4 years old, and his sister was good friends with Carly. And I remember looking at that picture. His name's Cameron. He's now a pediatric oncologist at age 30, 31 right now. So think about that. You just don't realize how it impacts it. And, as Megan indicated, there's so many opportunities to get involved. And it's not just the monetary, it's giving your time. And when you give your time and you go into into a room or help somebody else out, you see things from a different perspective. And that changes your perspective moving forward. And then you in turn can give back to help others. It's pretty remarkable.
You know what always amazes me is when there's like a fundraising event, whether it's at a fire hall or wherever it might be, and you go to this and there's a million people there, and you say, oh, how did you know so-and-so? Oh, I don't know them. I don't know anything about the family. I just heard that this child was battling cancer, so I wanted to be here to support it. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we are definitely the city of good neighbors. We've talked about it many times that I don't think in any other city that people are as good-hearted and genuine as they are right here in Western New York.
And, from my time at Channel 2, I covered so many sick children. And I could name 20 off the top of my head that are no longer with us and, passed away. And it's just so unfair. But I remember I would go to my news director and I would say, oh, I want to do this story about so-and-so. And after a while, they're like, do we have to keep doing these stories? They're so sad. And I was like, yes, we have to keep doing these stories because they are so sad and they're tragic and something needs to change. And it's still not changing. And these children are still dying. I mean, we went to Liam's event and Maxton. And I mean, you could just keep naming them. Sophia. It's maddening.
They deserve more. They deserve way more than what we're doing right now.
But you are doing so much, and you are doing so
Yes.
much. We just need more time. Is that
More conversations, creating space like this. I'm telling you, though, it wasn't the day that that Carly passed away or the day she was diagnosed that I think about. It was the day that we had to shift our focus from curative to quality of life. That, to me, was the day that I think back to. And, you know, a lot of the things that, you know, Carol Ann, my wife, and I do as volunteers, it's geared towards making sure that families don't have to hear that anymore. And we've got some unbelievable researchers up at Roswell. It is, you know, Dr. Brent Jens, they talk about CAR T cells. I mean, he's like the leading guy in the world.
Wow.
You know, so to be able to bring that here to our neighborhood is so important to make sure that families are able to get through it. And that's, you know, that's the reason we're going to continue to do this as long as we need to do it, because you're right. If for every story that doesn't turn out the way it's supposed to, we know that there's stories that do turn out the way they're supposed to because of conversations like this and advocacy and the work that's taken place up at Roswell.
Well, we are so glad that you guys could be here to talk about all of this. And one thing about the Carly, whenever I think of her, my favorite photo is with the bandana. You know which one I mean?
Yeah.
That is just like.
And that was from Buffalo Spree. And it's kind of funny. They took all these pictures. We had just gotten back from Boston, took all these pictures. And, you know, I didn't think they really came out great. And then all of a sudden, it was Jim Bush, I believe, was the photographer. I think that's who it was. He goes, "Oh, Carly, hold on one second." She was kind of standing by a bay window. And he snapped that picture. And he was actually walking out.
Oh, my
And he took
goodness.
that picture. That's kind of become the iconic photo. I still have the kind of blinged bandana that she was wearing in that picture. But yeah, definitely something that fills my heart every time I see it.
For sure.
And Chuck, you went to Rascal Flats this weekend too, and I just want to make sure we talk about this. You posted the most beautiful story about your nephew, and I wondered if you wouldn't mind touching on that story really quick.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, your journey, I learned a little bit about it, and it's so important that you're coming out the other side. But both my mom and sister, unfortunately, were diagnosed with cancer in late 2023. They both passed away in September of last year, 2 weeks apart. My nephew lost his mom, and then 7 years earlier, my brother-in-law, Tim, died of a heart-related incident. So he'll be 21 on March 21st, and lost both of his parents. So he actually flew to Buffalo. Rascal Flats was their favorite group, you know, growing up. He remembers all their songs. So, you know, he came in for the concert. We went there, had a great time. Just super proud of him. And it's a reminder, it's not what happens to you in your life, it's how you choose to respond to it. And my sister was one of the most resilient people I've ever met in my life. And I was blessed to be able to spend a lot of time with her the last year and a half, thanks to the agency I work for, Heritage Christian Services. They were super generous, allowing me to work remotely. And just to be able to see him get through it and to be able to support him. And the music was just beautiful. I mean, you were there, you know, and it's probably even sweeter because of what you've been through over the last year or so. And that's the way he kind of viewed it as well. So just grateful, a lot of gratitude in my heart right now, and just fortunate to be able to spend that time with him.
It must have meant a lot to him.
It definitely did. He wants to come back now for the Goo Goo Dolls in Hamilton. So.
All right,
Oh, let's
all right,
go.
make it happen.
Well, we're waiting for Robbie to give us dates. He's going to come on.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be
So
awesome.
we'll tell him.
Yeah.
We'll say, hey, we have a very special friend who
Yep.
is
Oh, that would be awesome.
awesome. Okay. Well, we are so glad you guys were able to come and join us.
Thank you.
It's only our 4th episode, and we really want to, you know, have fun and, you know, meet new people, but also bring the important messages too. So thank you both for doing that. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And we like to end our show with a final thought. So it could be anything you want to talk about, you know, just that last final thing that's on your mind. So, Megan, you want to go first?
Following my Hulu binge of Say Nothing, I'm excited for St. Patrick's Day coming up, and I will be tipping all of my bartenders and servers. But it's a nice way to see the community come out, celebrate Irish heritage, whether it's in your blood or just in your mindset. So I'm excited to see all of that. As a true, proud Irish American. So that's my final thought is I'm excited to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and I'm excited to tip my servers and my bartenders.
I like that.
I like that too. Chuck?
So I think mine is the game tonight with the Sabres. And, Jack Eichel returning to Buffalo. I know he left under kind of rocky terms, but a lot of people may not know this, but when Jack was 18, he actually came up to the hospital and immediately became involved in, Courage of Carly activities over the years. He would show up at the hospital, he would buy gifts for kids and do a lot of things behind the scenes. And he was a very young man when he was drafted. And all of a sudden for him to come back, and I just hope that the Western New York community gives him a standing ovation, along with Tage, who's just a great guy too, whose wife went through a difficult cancer battle as well. So it's just a reminder of the impact off the ice. So I really hope the Western New York community embraces that for Tage, for Jack, and for Noah Hannafin, because obviously winning the gold medal is a big deal, but it's the work that these players do off the ice, I think, that goes unrecognized sometimes. So I'm just honored to be able to share that today.
And we have to remember, they're so young. They're just babies, 18, 19, 20. So you're absolutely right. I know you have a very special final thought.
I do have a very special final thought. So next week on Monday, I will receive my final treatment at Roswell Park. I'm very, very excited and grateful to Roswell Park for saving my life, Dr. Young, Dr. Levine, and everyone I've passed and met and made my experience so bright. And then on Wednesday, I'll get my port out. So it's really to be excited about a surgery seems silly, but to me it marks the end of a very long year and a very long journey. And I just want to tell anyone out there who might be newly diagnosed with breast cancer that when I was first diagnosed, I was really scared and I didn't know what was going to happen, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you can get through this. I really didn't think I could, but somehow you find the strength within you to fight, and you can do it. So I just want to tell anybody out there who might be battling, feel free to reach out to me. You can do it. You can do it.
You have been an inspiration over the past year, and I love you so much.
I love you.
And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And we are going to celebrate.
Okay.
And we're going to tip those bartenders big time.
We sure are.
We celebrate. My final thought is, I mentioned earlier in the show that my 14-year-old actually got on stage and sang these songs. And when she was going out there, I said, "How you feeling, Em?" And she's like, "Great." And I'm like, "Isn't she nervous?" And she didn't really seem to be nervous. And then when she went up there, I saw like a little kind of shaky shake. And so sitting in the front row as a mom, I was so nervous. But she was amazing and flawless. And it made me think we should do something more often that scares us. Yep. Whatever it is, think of something that maybe you want to do, but you're afraid to do, or something along those lines, and then just do it. Just do it. I have this thing where I've always wanted to do stand-up comedy, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a place that's going to have an open mic, and I'm going to do like a 2-minute, and everybody's going to just like not laugh, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to do it, and I promise. So we're
going to be there, all of us.
Yeah,
we're going to be there cheering you on.
I'm going to do it.
Amazing.
I'm going to do it. Imagine how scary that would be.
No.
You know what I say all the time is do at least one thing every day that scares you. One thing. And it could be as simple as, calling someone or whatever, but that's amazing. My scary things are not as brave and bold as yours. So good for you.
Well, now I said it and it's out there, so.
We're going to do it. Comedy show starring Mary Friona. Let's make it happen. I'm going to be there. I'm going to promote it, and everyone's going to come.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we had a great show. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We're going to put more info on our socials about Courage of Carly and about Roswell and everything you guys do. So thank you for all the work you do.
You guys are amazing community partners year round. So we could not do it without you. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love you so much.
Right back at you.
And that's it for us. Gosh, that went by fast.
Yeah.
Another day.
Yeah, we'll be back next week.
Next Tuesday, and we have a great guest.
Yep.
Actually, Melissa, she is, she does the color analysis. So she's going to explain colors and why colors are so important and what colors you should wear. And I hope I'm wearing the right colors that I'm supposed to wear.
Yeah,
we'll
me
find
too.
out next week.
All right.
Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at the Buffalo Social Club.